Well, guys, it's Real Appalachia with Shane.
And Melody.
And somebody else. Who is that?
The Mothman.
The Mothman. That can only mean one thing.
We are in Point Pleasant, West Virginia today.
Yes, we were ready to check out the museum, the Mothman, the Silver Bridge Memorial, and a few other things.
Yeah.
You guys look around.
Yes.
You excited?
I am.
It's been on our bucket list for a long time, hasn't it?
It has, especially mine. I love this kind of thing.
All right. Let's get to it. And hopefully he won't tag along with us.
Hopefully not.
You just stay here, big fella.
Yeah, you stay right here.
Here's a look at the historic Low Hotel from the side and also a little bit of a street view. But you might enjoy seeing that.
There's a post office.
Yeah. Post office, and it's just an old downtown area, Main Street type thing. Kind of, there's a lot of different businesses and a lot of them out of business. It's kind of all over the place, really, isn't it? And there is the Mothman
I like to
statue.
think that it's building up.
Yeah.
Maybe they're fixing stuff up.
So there's a lot of traffic through here, so it would make sense that it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
A lot of potential, and I'm thinking people know that. Like we said before, I love that inn sign on the top, and then it's just a legitimate old hotel. Don't see many of those anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, we're right across the street from the Mothman Museum. We're going to check that out here in just a few minutes.
Yes, and you see that the Mothman statue is right there.
And there's a little nice little clock, and it's right across from the haunted historic Low Hotel. We'll go in and check that out at some point too.
Absolutely.
Time's a wasting. Let's get out here. What do you say?
All right.
Okay, just off the river, there's several statues here denoting part of the what's known as Lord Dunmore's War. And in front of us right now is Lord Dunmore. He was actually the governor of Virginia at the time during the Battle of Point Pleasant. And we'll take a look at a couple other major players in that action right down here, which is Andrew Lewis and Cornstalk. Behind us there, you'll see these murals as well.
And they're beautiful. Whoever painted those did a really good job.
And you can see how far they go too. God, they extend the whole.
Yeah, they go the whole amphitheater.
My goodness.
I really like that part down there showing the valley. I think that's really pretty.
It really is, yeah. I mean, it's a gorgeous area.
It is, yeah. And this view of the river too.
Yeah, so let's go take a look at Cornstalk and Andrew Lewis.
Yes.
Well, we can take a look at the bridges while we're at it too, I guess.
Yeah.
One to the right, one to the left. But you can see just beautiful bridges. It's such a peaceful place, but there's a vibe here, isn't there?
Yeah.
You can feel the history.
I think anywhere where a major tragedy in this town has seen its fair share.
Yeah, that's for sure. So here's
and
Andrew.
Getting to that, the Battle of Point Pleasant.
Yes. Which took place, was it October 10th, 1774?
Yes. An Irish-American pioneer was Andrew Lewis. He defeated the Shawnee and Mingo warriors led by Shawnee Chief Cornstalk, which is over here beside of him. This is considered the bloodiest battle ever fought between Native Americans and Europeans. And their battleground is now memorialized in a park with a name that I can't pronounce. 2 Ndiwi State Park. And we'll try to get you a view of that later too.
Yeah, I'll buy that. Each was fighting for his own way of life. And they're memorialized together, which is kind of ironic. You know,
I know. I was going to say, yeah. And of course I have a soft spot for the Native Americans. I feel like they had such bad treatment here in the early America years. But yeah, I would think how Chief Cornstalk would feel about being in a statue beside of Lewis. Especially since a lot of the locals still believe that he cursed this town. You would think that you would want to make him an even bigger statue off to himself or some kind of tribute.
Yeah, kind of lump them in like they're like Hall & Oates or something.
Siegfried and Roy.
Yeah, and really this guy would have stabbed the man with the sword. And
exactly.
He'd hit him with the tomahawk, and
they're
probably rolling over in their grave right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So this effectively, though, was ended the Lord Dunmore's war.
Yeah, it was just a two battle or 2-day thing. So.
Okay. We'll walk around and show you some more of this, but I love these murals, and this shows a little bit of the Battle of Point Pleasant here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just amazing. Look how elaborate that is, and it's so huge.
It is.
I don't think this camera's doing it justice.
No, can you imagine the time that it took? It's so detailed. Look at the groups of men up there at the top. I mean, that would be so hard to paint.
I do think this guy's checking you out, though.
Maybe. I think he's got other things on his mind.
Okay, so we found the site of the Silver Bridge that collapsed December 15th, 1967, in which 46 lives were lost.
Yeah, we were kind of expecting something bigger with their names on there.
Yeah, it's such a major event, and horrifying, and I just kind of expected more.
Yeah, I was just talking with Shane how I could just imagine being like a mother where my husband and children were on the bridge and maybe they were missing, looking out at the water, and how traumatizing that would be. And yeah, so I would expect a little bit bigger memorial, but
so we were, like you said, this is actually the train bridge.
Yeah, and the train bridge has been here for a long time.
So the other one we showed earlier that was to the left that I said was actually is the passenger vehicle bridge. They built it down the river some, but this is a site where that tragedy happened, and it was close to Christmas.
Yeah, December 15th.
I read descriptions of people, just beating and thrashing to trying to get out of their cars while they were just in a panic, and I just can't imagine what that was like. You just think
I said, being a survivor with loved ones. Gosh.
Yeah, this area has just been a site of a lot of tragedy. It just has. A lot of history, but a lot of tragedy and pain.
Yeah.
And we certainly want to remember those folks. It just...
Yes.
Ever since I've heard of that story, it just... any kind of bridge, especially an older bridge, it just crosses your mind. You can't help it.
And children being lost. Oh my gosh, it's just heartbreaking. It's
supposed to be the happiest time of year, Christmas, going up and buying presents and doing all these things, and then end up losing your life. It just... Well, it just goes to show you can't take anything for granted either. We enjoy what we got when we got it, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Exactly.
All right, we're fixing to show you this park here, and this is going to be like verbal gymnastics to try to pronounce all these things, but we are at the 2 Indy Way, I'm thinking. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
2 Indy Way Park, which memorializes the Battle of Point Pleasant, which occurred at the confluence of the Kanawha and Ohio rivers. Which is right here, as you can see. And they got a very prominent memorial right here,
It's a beautiful little park overlooking the river, too.
Yeah, it's very scenic part of the town.
The chief event of Lord Dunmore's War, which we've already talked to you about a little bit there.
So it looks like this memorial goes back to, this monument, it goes back to 1909.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And here's another monument to Colonel Andrew Lewis, we mentioned before. And the reason we're showing this is an interesting footnote that I did not know, and I don't think you did either, did you?
I did not.
And on June 9th, 1965 at 3:45 p.m., Andrew Lewis, fifth great-grandson, Major Edward Higgins White II of Gemini 4, became the first American to walk in outer space. And this here memorializes the Revolutionary soldiers. As a lot of people say that this was the first battle of the Revolutionary War, and that's in a dispute, kind of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the confluence of the Kanawha and Ohio rivers. And you can see in the background there's 2 bridges. There's one here, and yet another this way. So this is about as scenic a park as you could get.
Yeah.
This says, it talks about the magazine where the militiamen who were buried in the magazine and the surrounding battlefield on October 11th, 1774, the day after the Battle of Point Pleasant. It memorializes that they passed away on October 10th, 1774. Mm-hmm. This is why you always want two people with you, because I completely missed this. Melody found out right as we were pulling out of the park here. So
yeah, this is where the remains of Chief Cornstalk lies, which was about 3 teeth and 15 bone fragments, and his body was actually moved twice before it was laid to rest here on the same ground of the people that killed him in the battle. So that was another thing we were talking about.
Right there in the distance is where that magazine is, where they're buried, and
and then he's over here.
So they shed blood together, and they...
Yeah. At first he was buried near Fort Randolph, and then in 1840 they moved his remains to the courthouse grounds. So I believe that his remains were moved here about 1954 from what I can find on the internet. So again, if you think that somebody has maybe cursed your town, don't move their remains around.
It seems like, let's just let this guy rest for once.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting it was moved twice before the Mothman sightings occurred. So, I mean, it's interesting if you play into that theory.
Yeah, it tells a little bit more about him too, and this monument's rest remains of Ketukwa. All right, we are from Gallipolis. How would you say that?
Gallipolis.
Yeah, Ohio, heading into West Virginia.
Yes.
So this is the way you get into Point Pleasant.
It says Silver Memorial Bridge.
Yeah, we don't want to be thinking about that right now, probably, do we?
No.
Beautiful bridge, though.
It is, yeah. We're about to cross into the West Virginia state line.
All right. That was your first trip to Ohio, right?
That was my first trip to Ohio. Gallipolis.
You can't even brag about it because we can't pronounce it.
And we are heading into Point Pleasant here. Going to give you a look at the town, and I'll also be giving you some information about the town as we drive through here. So Point Pleasant is the county seat of Mason County. It is at the confluence of the Ohio and the Kanawha rivers. Kanawha.
Don't trust me, you're not the only person.
Okay.
Everything up here is hard to pronounce.
It kind of is,
Gallipolis.
Kind of is.
Alright, so you said the Kanawha and Ohio rivers?
Yes, it's at the confluence of that. And it is known as the place where history and rivers meet. The 2019 estimated population was 4,062. So quite a bit bigger than a lot of the towns that we visit.
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized town.
Yeah, definitely so. So there originally was a Shawnee village here until 1749. A French explorer came and claimed French sovereignty over the Ohio Valley area and gave the town the name of Point Pleasant, which also we saw some conflicting information in town about that. I guess that there's some claims too that George Washington gave Point Pleasant its name when he passed through the town.
A little more suspect, but you never know.
Yeah. So we're not really sure there, but here we're coming into the town. So the British loyals and representatives refused to leave, even though this French explorer come in, and that added a lot of tension building up for the French and Indian War of 1754. So this is a very old town. In 1774, the Battle of Point Pleasant was fought, which we've talked about a little bit already. Irish-American pioneer Andrew Lewis defeated the Shawnee and Mingo warriors, which was led by Shawnee Chief Cornstalk. This was considered the bloodiest battle ever fought between Native Americans and Europeans, which I think that we had mentioned before already too. So, so a lot of bloodshed with that, definitely so, and it's sad. That is part of what feeds into the Mothman hysteria, is that this town was cursed by Chief Cornstalk. And you know, we read that he was a pretty peaceful guy and very well respected within the British communities and the Native American tribes, and that's why they chose him to be their leader. So it's very tragic that that battle had to be fought here and all that had to go down, all that bloodshed.
It's so crazy to drive through these days to think that it has that tragic history of so many things happening. Of course, Valley Point Pleasant was a nightmare, and then the Silver Bridge collapse, which I know we'll talk about too. But
definitely so.
And then all that does feed into the whole Mothman, and it just strange how it all interacts.
Yeah. Even before the Mothman was ever a thought, I read that the town didn't flourish for many, many years after 1774 because there was a superstition that Chief Cornstalk cursed the town for 100 years, which the Mothman was seen well over 100 years. But, you know, that people have always kind of held that superstition here. Point Pleasant was officially incorporated in 1833. During the Civil War, the courthouse was attacked in the Jones and Bowdoin raid of 1863. The bullet holes were still visible in the courthouse until it was replaced with a new building in 1954. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
I think that a lot of Appalachian towns have seen a lot of attacks during the Civil War. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
They have the Eastham House, the Lewis Capehart Roseberry House, and the Point Pleasant Battleground are all part of the National Register of Historic Places. On December 15th, 1967, the collapse of the Silver Bridge occurred, killing 46 people. The Silver Bridge crossed the Ohio River, connecting Point Pleasant with Gallipolis, Ohio. So the bridge that we just showed you that we crossed over is the replacement bridge for that. So a lot of talk about that too. A lot of people claim that the Mothman was an evil entity and that he actually caused the destruction of the bridge. But from what I read, that bridge was built in 1928 and it just wasn't built for the weight of cars and trucks and probably semi-trucks and everything that was being driven in the late 60s. It just wasn't made for that kind of weight, and it collapsed due to the weight of the rush hour traffic. There was a tiny little defect, only 2.5 millimeters in the suspension chain.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's just like a little eye bar thing, and it's just, I mean, tiny. To think that holds everything together just shows you how fragile life is and engineering. And
just a tiny little defect in it.
Yeah.
But they also didn't keep that bridge up like they should have to. So I don't really think that one can be blamed on the Mothman.
Well, and the thing too that launched a lot of changes, because a lot of the bridges were getting older at that point, so they started really revisiting that. Speaking of the things though, there's a landmark here called Tudor's Biscuit World, and
great biscuits.
You can't beat that. If you're coming to West Virginia, you got to go to Tudor's Biscuit World because it's just like coming home.
It is like coming home. Those are some home style biscuits. They are good.
Up ahead of us, you see the smoke from the plants.
Yeah. And this is the direction to get to the TNT area that we give you a better look at also on this strip. This is if you come to Point Pleasant and that you're looking to come look for Tudor's Biscuit World.
Yeah, that's right. Just keep on going straight after that.
Yeah. So you just go for several miles and it's easy to find.
Yeah. It's actually on GPS too, the TNT thing. It's a parking lot.
It is, yeah, a little parking spot.
I love these cemeteries too, just right around the road.
Very beautiful cemeteries.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll give you a little bit of a look at the high school at Point Pleasant. Is it junior and high school here?
Junior and senior high school, yes.
So and show you a little bit more of the historic district and think you got a little bit more to share about the whole Mothman phenomenon, right?
Yes. So we talked a little bit about the original reporting of the Mothman at the Mothman Museum. 2 young couples. We actually got to see their deposition at the museum, so that was really cool. But there were actually some sightings before that. One was a few days before, November 15th, 1966. Some men were in a graveyard, I think actually digging a grave, and they looked up and they saw a large man yet winged creature in the trees above them, watching them. There were also some fishermen that were nearby that had seen a large man-like, moth-like creature flying over the TNT area. So I'm not really sure why the 2 couples were considered the first official. Maybe they're the only ones that actually reported their sighting, but that's who's giving credit, and it's exactly 13 months to the day of the Silver Bridge collapse. So that's really interesting. So we read a little bit about them. They saw this large dark gray creature over 7 feet tall, large wingspan of about 10 feet wide, glowing red eyes. He chased them at speeds over 100 miles an hour. Sightings continued over the next year, earning a spot in the newspaper and getting the name of the Mothman. And that became news across the world.
I think it's really powerful to me, like you said at the museum, to read those handwritten account from, I guess her name was Linda Scarberry.
Yes,
And,
the Scarberries.
Just to read that, it just seemed very credible when you read it. It didn't seem. It was definitely what they thought they saw.
Yes.
It wasn't some made up elaborate tale. It was.
Well, and to write 13 pages front and back, I mean, you're given detail, you're upset about it. I mean, it's not like, it doesn't seem like a made up story, but like I said, there were several accounts, and there were firemen that saw the Mothman, there were police officers. One report that we read was actually about a UFO sighting, but those were all kind of happening at the same time before the Silver Bridge collapsed, and that was from a pilot, and he wanted to remain anonymous. So I mean, it was credible people. It wasn't just like teenagers out making up stories.
I think that really resonated with me too, that, you know, he wanted to be anonymous. It wasn't like he tried to attention or draw attention to himself or anything. Just, he's felt indebted to or felt led to
tell his story.
Just tell his story.
So in 1975, John Keel wrote the book The Mothman Prophecies, which later became a very popular movie in 2002, starring Richard Gere and Deborah Messing. The movie was much more fictionalized than the truth, though. Of course, Hollywood has to put their spin on it. In 2002, Point Pleasant had their first annual Mothman Festival. It occurs in September each year, and it seems like it just grows bigger and bigger. In 2005, the Mothman Museum and Research Center opened up in town, and that was a really cool little visit, and it was like $4.50. I mean, it was well worth it.
Yeah, it was. If you're into this thing, if you don't like it, it's probably. But if you're into this, you really love seeing a lot of the things, because it has a good blend of fact, fiction, and speculation, and newspaper accounts, and just really exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah. So Mothman sightings really dropped off after the collapse of the Silver Bridge. It didn't completely stop, but for the most part, and that's up for debate as to why. But there are sightings of the Mothman really across the world. People claim that they see a Mothman-like creature. And actually in 2016, some photos went viral of a Mothman-like creature on one man's trip through Point Pleasant. But there's also been sightings in New York, Mexico, Minnesota, and that one was actually before another bridge collapsed. But probably most frequently now in Chicago. Chicago has been labeled as the new home of the Mothman. It's very strange. A lot of those I have read, though, it seems like those reports come in after some kind of tragedy, and those are a little bit more, I'm a little bit more skeptical of those.
Just kind of convenient.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's almost like, I don't know, it makes it seem like more of a story than really credible. It wasn't like a ton of people was seeing this creature for 13 months.
I also get you too when you do. I had bits and pieces of all this history before we came, but when you really put it together, you think about Silver Bridge collapse. You got the Point Pleasant battle. And there's so much tragedy, so much pain attached to this town.
Yeah.
That it really there's just something to that.
Yeah. And that really fuels on the Mothman theories too. Some say that it was just some kind of crane or heron or owl. Some say that the Mothman is an alien. Many believe he's a cryptid creature like Bigfoot. I've also read theories that the Mothman is a mutated human from the TNT bunkers nearby, being affected by that chemical waste. But probably the most common theory, I would think, is that the Mothman was some kind of curse by the Native American leader, Chief Cornstalk.
Yeah, that seems to be the most commonly referenced thing. And here's the statue, as you can see, very popular all day and night, basically.
Yeah, all day, every day. Yeah.
Draws a crowd. We'll stop here and give you a look around.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed this little drive-through. I know that was...
Yeah.
Thanks for the information. Okay, guys. I think this would be a good time to point out that we had a pleasant trip here to Point Pleasant, didn't we?
We did. It's 90 degrees and my eyes are staying closed.
Yeah. We're going to wrap this up and get on down the road. But we do want to have some little Mothman root beer and the old
cheers. It was a great trip. I highly recommend it. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other fun trips.
Yes, that's it. And we appreciate you guys, all our supporters, especially patrons and donors. We couldn't have done this without you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We talked about this several times on this trip, how
we are so grateful.
So grateful we couldn't do these things that we could do without your support. So
absolutely.
bless you all.
Thank you.
See you on down the road.